When LGBT people decide that they want to have families, it's a journey and it takes a tremendous amount of effort and commitment to get there. I grew up in Kansas City, Kansas. I come from a large, close-knit family. I have strong matriarchal figures, my mom and my grandmother and my aunt. Kansas is located squarely in the Bible Belt. And so I grew up in an incredibly religious household. The people I loved the most and who loved me the most struggled with my sexuality very early on, and it took a long time for us to kind of get to a place of acceptance and unconditional love. There was certainly a moment when I thought that being gay or being a part of the LGBT community meant that I could not have a family. People kept saying to me, oh, you know, are you sure you want to do this by yourself? You sure you want to do this by yourself? I grew up with people who were single parents my entire life. If this is possible for heterosexual people to raise children by themselves, and certainly with the kinds of resources that I've been given, I can marshal those resources to start a family of my own as well. I decided that as a single man, I was going to start the journey of having a kid. My best friend had a friend who came up to visit, and this woman said, I think I'll donate my eggs to him. So I had the eggs, and so then I needed another piece to it. And there was a remarkable woman who had been a surrogate for a friend of mine. He said, I'll introduce you to her. In fact, she might like you. Aren't you from Kansas? Oh, well, so was she. And so that woman, whose name is Angela, also agreed to be my surrogate. I could not have found a more perfect family. I left Kansas to go to what I thought of as like the true land of Oz, right? Which was New York. But I had to go back to Kansas to start my family, which just doesn't even make sense to me. It just doesn't compute. I couldn't afford to go back every month for every appointment. So if you go to hear the heartbeat, then maybe you can't go when it's the gender reveal. In the moment, you want to be there for every single piece of information or news. I don't know that I was ever prepared for the depth and level of emotion, not just seeing my child come into the world, but seeing how hard someone worked for my kid to come into the world. I hugged Angela a lot. And then I asked my mother to thank God, to say a prayer to thank God first, and then to present to me the gift that God had given me. And so I named him Elan Anthony Charles. Elan means to do something with spirit and energy or purpose. And so I wanted to make sure that I named him something that every time he heard his name called, he knew that his life was purposeful. So recently, Elan and I went to Albany to lobby for the Child Parent Security Act. I don't actually plan on having any more kids, so in a sense, I wasn't doing it for me. I was doing it because I think it's important for everyone in our society to have equality around the ways in which we want to live our lives. This isn't just about certain kinds of people having families. This is about everyone being able to create a family. I think Family Equality Council the message is critical for so many people who don't think that becoming a parent or creating a family is possible.
He is loving, courageous, and resilient in spite of everything that he's been through. And was any of this easy? No, it takes resilience and persistence to get our son the care that he needs. But we were able to because we live in California. We live in a state where it is illegal for any government-funded agency to discriminate against qualified parents based on sexual orientation, gender identity, sex, marital status, or religion.
Well, hello. Thank you for joining us for the Our Families, Our Future, What's at Stake virtual event. That was a mouthful. I'm Alec Mappa. I've watched all of Netflix. I've gained 20 pounds and I haven't worn pants since March. I've got your gender reveal party. It's my great honor to once again MC an event for family equality. I'm used to doing this in person for the amazing donors of family equality, but this year you get to see my fabulous face up close and personal and on the screen. Welcome to my pores. Now, thank you to Dennis and Elon for sharing their beautiful story and helping us highlight one good thing to come out of 2020. Family Equality led a coalition that overturned a ban on surrogacy in New York State. Now, it's much easier for LGBTQ plus people in New York to expand their families and have their relationships fully recognized by the state. Now, as you know, my husband and I adopted through foster care a little more than 10 years ago. This is our son, Zion. This is when he was 5. Now he's 15 and no longer speaks to us. Now, we were able to adopt through foster care because we live in California. There are currently 100,000 kids up for adoption in foster care, and LGBTQ people are 6 times more likely to adopt through foster care. And yet, in 11 states, it is currently legal for federally funded agencies to discriminate against qualified couples based on sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, marital status, or religion. They're actually making it harder for these kids to find loving, permanent homes. And if we have 4 more years of this administration, it's not going to stop at 11 states. That's why we need your help. It's been a crazy year for all of us, and so much has changed. One thing that hasn't changed, however, is the battle for the rights of LGBTQ plus families. Discrimination against our families and youth in the child welfare system won't end until we pass legislation or get a broad positive ruling by the Supreme Court. Therefore, we need your help this evening. So, what's at stake for our families? The election. Oh my God, I think we can all definitely say this is the most important election of our lifetimes. And yet, no matter what happens in November, family equality will continue to be there to battle for our families. Tonight, we're going to find out a little more about what family equality is doing to protect us. We need your support to keep family equality strong. Now, there's a thermometer on your screen so you can see the progress we will make tonight as we work towards our goal. Tonight's goal is $500,000. And if anyone can do it, it's all of you who've tuned in to join us. Donating is simple and easy. Just text FUTURE to 52886 to give now. Now, often when referring to our families, they say the kids are all right. Well, let me tell you, the kids are more than all right. Here's one amazing human who has used her voice, her passion, and her family foundation to help change hearts and minds.
My name is Kinsey Morrison. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky, and I have 2 moms and 2 younger sisters. In 2015, I joined Family Equality to submit an amicus brief to the Supreme Court in the case that delivered marriage equality nationwide. As the 5-year anniversary of that groundbreaking ruling comes around, we're taking a look back at the progress that marriage equality delivered to all LGBTQ families and also at the challenges that those families still face. As a Mexican-American woman with gay parents in Kentucky, I definitely have always felt a little bit like the odd one out, and to some degree know at least a little bit what it's like for a family to be marginalized. So I think that that's influenced me quite a bit in wanting to fight for justice and for equality going forward. I now work with Governor Andy Beshear in Kentucky as his communications advisor. I definitely think that the way that I was raised has influenced what I want to do going forward and how passionate I am about the work that I get to do now. In late 2014, my 2 sisters and I realized that the Supreme Court was considering whether or not to take the case on national marriage equality. Our whole lives, we've been told that our parents were breaking traditional marriage, when in reality, we saw them as an example of the sanctity of marriage. And so when people would say to us, oh, well, you can't have marriage equality, gays and lesbians will ruin the sanctity of marriage, we wanted to show that no, they are an example of that. And so we made a video called Sanctity. It was just this really, really sweet and powerful video that we made on our own to start with, but then Family Equality staff found it. And when they realized that I was over 18 and lived in one of the states, Kentucky, that was going to be part of a Supreme Court case, they reached out to me and my sisters to see if we could get more involved. It'll be 5 years in June. I co-signed an amicus brief to the Supreme Court in support of marriage equality on behalf of all children of queer parents in the U.S. And I got to speak at the United for Marriage rally on the steps of the Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court cannot decide today whether or not I have a family.
While oral arguments were happening, I had practiced my speech so many times, but I could never have prepared for how close the opposing protesters would be and loud and angry. That experience made me realize you need to know in yourself that we might be different in some ways, but we're equal. We don't have to convince other people that we deserve rights. We deserve those inherently based on our humanity. It's been really cool growing up to see the evolution of my state, Kentucky, and the entire American South in being more and more open to marriage equality and LGBTQ rights. I think even if you look at my boss, Governor Andy Beshear, is explicitly in favor of banning conversion therapy, of a statewide fairness law. He was the first sitting governor to ever speak at a fairness rally. I actually got to help write his speech for that rally, which was a very, very proud moment for me. I'm incredibly proud of the state as a whole. There is still, a whole lot more work to do, but I do see a lot of progress that's been made. I can't overstate enough the impact marriage equality has had on changing norms. Now that I can say my best friend is getting married to his boyfriend, and I say that without fear, that very much I think is new over the past 5 years. There's a very common thought that once we got marriage equality, you can throw in the towel and we can move on to other things. I so wish that were true, but there's still so much more to be done. Getting equality for gay parents so that there aren't kids who really need a loving home but aren't able to be in one, getting a statewide fairness law in every state to protect people from discrimination in the workplace and in housing, protecting our trans brothers and sisters who may not have felt fully represented in the marriage equality case, and changing the perspective on some of these religious freedom laws. Your First Amendment rights don't allow you to discriminate against other people. God is love. God is loving your neighbor as you would yourself. How can that translate for people into discriminating against others? But I just don't get it. I think my hopes and dreams for the future, continuing to work in progressive Kentucky politics. I always say I would love to be the first woman of color governor of Kentucky. If somebody beats me to that, though, I would be absolutely thrilled. And on a personal note, this has been delayed a little bit because of the coronavirus, but I'm very excited to get my first apartment, have my younger sisters over for sleepovers, enjoying life, getting to spend it with people I care the most about.
As you can see, the kids aren't just all right, they're great. And thank you to Kinsey for sharing her story with us. But discrimination is getting in the way of allowing families like mine to form. So much work remains to be done to battle this discrimination and to support existing families. If you haven't yet, it's super simple and easy to donate. Just text FUTURE to 52886 to give now. Plus, did you know that we have a virtual auction running right now? The Our Families, Our Future online auction offers you and your family incredible items and exclusive virtual experiences from the comfort of your own home. We have over 40 amazing items to bid on, like original artwork pieces by Trisha Shattuck and Jose Carlos Casado. We also have stunning jewelry. Who doesn't love jewelry? Or how about a private New York City harbor boat cruise? And don't forget to check out our virtual Zoom cocktail experiences with celebs like Jesse Tyler Ferguson. There's something for everyone. The auction closes tonight at 11:59 Eastern Time. The link is up on your screen right now, so get your bids in. And for your troubles, I have some good news. We have a brilliant team in our corner at Family Equality to battle for our rights, provide education to those who want to expand their families, resources for existing families, and much, much more. On the panel, we have Denise Brogan-Cater, who is a veteran, both of our armed forces and of the battle for LGBTQ equality. She is an attorney and activist with nearly 30 years in the LGBTQ movement. She is a former executive director and is in her 9th year with Family Equality, now serving as both our Chief Policy Officer and our Chief Executive Officer on an interim basis while we conduct a search for our new permanent CEO. And we have Serena Johnson. Serena has devoted over 15 years to community education, diversity and inclusion, LGBTQ organizational relationship cultivation, and pragmatic planning and implementation. That's a lot. Somebody please explain to me what that means later. Throughout her career, she has dedicated herself to positively impacting the lives of the disenfranchised and underrepresented by ensuring that all LGBTQ families and individuals have a civic voice and self-empowerment tools. And now, it's my pleasure to turn things over to Family Equality Board Chair Emeritus, author, CEO of Clockwork, and LGBTQ family activist, Nancy Lyons.
Thanks, Alec. I'm really excited to have this conversation. We're talking to two of the people who lead two of the most important components of the work of family equality. Denise leads our policy team, and Serena leads our programming team. And the two of them are boots on the ground in the movement, leading this charge. And I'm excited to talk with both of you tonight. So thanks for being here. We talk a lot about family equality and lived and legal equality. Can you tell me what you mean when you say legal and lived equality?
Happy to. Thank you, Nancy. And I'd like to just give my thanks to everyone who's watching. We sincerely are grateful to you for your participation and your support. So legal equality for same-sex couples and LGBTQ plus and two-spirit people means very simply that we will not be treated as less than our straight counterparts as we move through life, form our families, and raise our children. And we're still a long way from that ideal. Although we finally achieved marriage equality and the freedom to marry, and I'm very proud of the role that family equality played in that movement, especially when Justice Kennedy called out our brief. Forces opposed to our equal treatment are chipping away, attacking our ability to form families and our ability to have both parents in a same-sex relationship legally recognized as parents. Consider the following. We achieved marriage equality in 2015, right? But in 2017, the Arkansas Supreme Court ruled that the state didn't have to put both same-sex parents, who were legally married, by the way, on their children's birth certificate, despite a law that required the state to do so for an opposite-sex parent. As we have so many times in the past, family equality was there to weigh in with the Supreme Court and let them know how such unequal treatment harmed LGBTQ plus families and our children. And we were very grateful and gratified when the Supreme Court of the United States agreed with us and reversed that state's Supreme Court decision. But wait, that's not the end of the story. Just this year, in 2020, the state of Indiana is arguing to the Supreme Court that it should be allowed to let biology trump in the issuance of birth certificates. And it's letting an opposite-sex spouse onto the birth certificate isn't because of marriage, but because he is presumed to be the other biological parent. If the court agrees to hear this case, rest assured that family equality will again lift up the voices of our families to underscore how harmful these attacks are on our families and our children. In 11 states across the country, child placing agencies are authorized by law to discriminate against same-sex couples in making placement decisions. And just this year, family equality led the effort to overturn a draconian ban on surrogacy in the state of New York, while at the same time, finally granting same-sex couples an inexpensive and simple way of establishing legal parentage for both spouses. Finally, in most states, same-sex couples are advised to seek a step-parent or second-parent adoption just to establish legal parentage between themselves and their children. When this is no longer true, there will be a significant step forward in our quest for legal equality. These are just a few examples of how legal equality is yet to be achieved and how family equality is working to make this goal an eventual reality. And of course, legal equality is all well and good, foundational even, right? But it isn't enough. We know, for example, that discrimination based on race is prohibited by law in most circumstances. But that doesn't mean that people of color are free from bias or discrimination. That difference is lived equality. Right, Serena?
Yes, thank you, Denise. So, as I envision it, lived equality, first of all, lived equality looks so different for all of us. I know for myself personally and my family, and when I'm thinking about lived equality for us, as African American queer family, I have twins, they're 7. I live in the inner city. Our environment is not one that I would call very progressive, but I think that lived equality is all of us having the opportunity to live as our authentic self and not being at a disadvantage because of our sexual orientation or gender expression or our family makeup. I know that all of us here at Family Equality are aware that community looks so different for all of us. And we try to build our programs to mirror that. We're aware of that. And that our goal is for all of us to experience daily lived equality for our families and for those who are seeking to build families. I think that one similarity, regardless of where we are located within the LGBTQ community, is that fear of discrimination or coming into contact with professionals, school systems, medical professionals who have not adapted to inclusive practices. One of the goals of the program department is just really working hard to ensure that we are providing our families with the opportunity to build community and to feel lived equality regardless of their actual location or their social economic status. As the Chief Program Officer, it is my desire to provide connections for all of our families, and then bridge the gaps where we may not always have the opportunity to feel like we are experiencing lived equality. And then also really just to work with the families to build and allow them to experience connections, support, resources, and fellowship as we all move towards the goal of just really experiencing a life full of lived equality.
Thank you. I think these are really important insights because, you know, most people in our community don't have an opportunity or don't have to think about the difference between lived and legal. They don't have to question their realities in the way that we are often forced to do. And I think they take for granted the lives that they live, the rights that they have, and the access to certain freedoms and rights that we don't have. So I think it's really important not only to hear this, but also to take these truths into our communities and point them out for people because they take their everyday lives for granted. And unless you're in our shoes, you don't really know what LGBTQ families are up against. Denise, you lead our policy team. Can you tell us a little bit about the work that you do on the policy team and why it's important to our families?
I'm happy to, thanks. And if I might, I'd like to just share a tiny bit of my own story first. When I first came out as transgender in 1992, yeah, I'm that old, there were no family resources for trans people, and the law was very clearly against us. A lot has changed in the decades since then, but trust me when I tell you, I've never forgotten that horrible feeling in the pit of my stomach when my lawyer told me that I might lose all parental rights to my children solely because of my transition. I was also fired more than once because of my gender identity. Back then, the situation was not much better for LGBT people generally. Finding resources and community with other LGBTQ parents was difficult at best. I felt completely alone and voiceless. I tell you that because family equality exists in part so that no LGBTQ parent will have to feel the way I did. And a key element to getting to that point is ensuring that we have a voice in the halls of power. In a nutshell, that's the work of the policy department. Where you can't be, we are. We're in the halls of Congress and we're in state legislatures. We work to defeat legislation that would seek to further marginalize our families and our ability to grow our families. We help draft non-discrimination language in states and in Congress that protect our families and our children from harmful anti-LGBTQ bias. We combat a hostile administration that would seek to exclude us or worse. And when we have to get the courts involved, either to affirm our rights under the law or to challenge laws that marginalize our families, we're there too. Just a couple of short weeks ago, we filed another friend of the court brief with the United States Supreme Court in a case called Fulton v. the City of Philadelphia, where a taxpayer-funded child placing agency claims it has a constitutional right to discriminate against our families based on its religious beliefs. This case could have far-reaching implications, and family equality is there to ensure that the real impact to parents and to children is heard by the court. And of course, we lead the Every Child Deserves a Family campaign designed to prohibit discrimination against our families at the federal and at the state levels.
Thanks, Denise. I think it's really important work, but what's so incredible about the work that you do is, you know, those of us who are raising families, who are living in our communities, living in the states that we live in, we can feel just a little bit safer because family equality is on the front lines. And when we say that, we mean it. And, you know, those halls of power, having representation in those halls of power is so important. And that's a key piece of the work that you're doing. And I, for one, am really grateful. Serena, you lead the program team. Can you tell us a little bit about that work and why it is important to our families?
I can, Nancy. Thank you for asking. I think that this is probably my favorite question. So as I was just preparing and looking over all of our programs, there was an overarching theme, really three themes that I noticed today. And the first is that we are our family's resources. And then next, we're our family's celebration. And we are also our family's future. And what I mean by saying our family's resources, so we have a large library of family support and advocacy resources. I think that if I had to highlight one or two, it would be our Open Door professional training program, which works with employers to create those inclusive policies and practices that are welcoming to our community. Kind of like what we were just talking about, the lived equality, this Open Door training program is really just that. Like, that's what we would refer to one of our families or a partner that is seeking to build those welcoming cultures. Next would be the Rainbow Stork program. Every couple deserves the opportunity to build a family, regardless of their financial makeup. And so the Rainbow Stork is a newly developed program that has resources and every now and then some small grants available for our families that are focused on reproductive services for the LGBTQ community. We have some community and relationship building platforms within the neighborhood, and within that program, we have peer-to-peer support spaces, which have been really beneficial from some of the feedback we've been given over these past few months, especially at the start of COVID when everyone was isolated. And as most of you know, isolation within our community already happens so often naturally. And so we were seeking a way to continue to build those community and relationship supports, even while COVID was going on, because at that time, on top of COVID, we were not able to, go to our normal community centers and, just have community in that type of an environment. We also have the national network, and the national network is where individuals or families can go to build community groups within their own environment. So as you know, right now we're all living in, this online world. Prior to that, there was the opportunity for face-to-face networking and community building. And so that's where the national network came from, that we are just really here to support group building within your own community, so that you'll always have that connection. And then our families, we are our family celebration and Family Week. For over 25 years, Family Equality has hosted the largest gathering of LGBTQ plus families in the world, and that's in Provincetown, and it's a week full of community connection and celebration. And so as another point that I was thinking about as we were preparing for this is just that it is my goal and my deepest desire to never have to turn a family away that wants to come to Family Week due to their financial situation. So how amazing would it be for us to be able to have a scholarship bank and just, for families like me who, in the past, I could not afford to attend Family Week. So how amazing would it be that as a result of this evening, we would possibly be able to send more families to Family Week for that connection, and we would all be able to see ourselves represented in Provincetown for community and just that fellowship with other families. Last is, we are our family's future. Every family deserves to have resources and access to training modules and celebration and, just everything that other families, again, that goes back to that lived equality. We all deserve that. And so for us to be our family's future, it just means that our organization is determined to recognize all of the families that not only look like me, but look like everybody else within the community, and that family building and existing families will have the resources that they need, not just today and not just when we're trying to build families, but even beyond that, when our children go to school and when they graduate. And so hopefully I answered your question.
Yeah, that was great, and it got me really excited. We've got just a couple of minutes left, so I'm going to ask you a big question with a little amount of time for an answer. No pressure, no pressure. And we'll start with Denise. You can take a breather for a second, Serena, but I'm going to come right back to you. We have an election coming up, and I'm really curious about what's at stake for our families in this election. 30 seconds, Denise. What have you got?
Well, I just have to say that this upcoming election is far and away the most important election for LGBTQ plus and two-spirit families in our lifetime. Family Equality is a nonpartisan organization. We are represented in every political party and no political party, and we respect everyone's choices as to political party or candidate, but we are not indifferent to the impact and practices that the current administration has had on the lives of our families. I have a list of things that I can tell you about what this administration has done, but I'll cut it down to two. In November of 2019, last year, HHS proposed a change in regulation that prohibits adoption and foster care agencies from discriminating against same-sex couples, and basically eliminated that rule. It's a sweeping regulation that allows taxpayer-funded programs to discriminate across a full swath of programs, so its impact is certainly broader than just LGBTQ people and religious minorities, but it's clear that we were the primary target of that. And at the same time, the administration proposed a change to the HHS grants anti-discrimination rule that I just described and announced that it would stop enforcing the existing anti-discrimination rule. Family Equality is suing over that decision. This administration has gone to great lengths to erase the visibility of LGBTQ people in every place, to limit the education and safe schools efforts that were in place under the Obama administration. This is an important election.
Thanks. Denise, can we put on our website those list of things that this administration does so that our community can share it with their families when their families are thinking about how to vote in this next election? Because they're not thinking about us, but maybe they should. If we're part of their families and they love us, maybe it's important for them to really hear what's happened. Serena, we're down to the wire here, no pressure at all. But what do you think is the one big takeaway from this discussion for folks as they're thinking about the upcoming election?
Listen, we have to get registered to vote. As we enter into the end of this year, in the midst of a global pandemic, and then nationwide, there is a call really just to recognize police brutality, and then a consciousness about the lived reality of Black people here in America. All Black Lives Matter, all LGBTQ, Black families matter. We are committed here at Family Equality to raising awareness about the intersectionalities and the realities of the members of our community. So I think I would just say, make sure you are registered to vote, have your plan, make sure you help your neighbors and your family members. It's really important to our community.
Thank you, Serena. Thank you, Denise. Thank you both. The work that you do is so important. My family is grateful. All of our families are grateful. Thank you so much. And thanks to all of you for tuning in tonight and for listening to the work, the story of the work of Family Equality.
Wow, thank you so much to Nancy, Denise, and Serena. You were brilliant in talking about how we can overcome the barriers in the way of lived and legal equality for LGBTQ plus families. And listen, you've heard from the team and are starting to hear firsthand what's at stake for our families. We need you to support this critical work, so please dig deep. Text FUTURE to 52886 to give now. We know that many of you in the audience tonight aren't part of LGBTQ plus families yourselves. You're grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, friends, siblings, etc. As allies to our community, we need your voice now more than ever. Let's take a listen to Jeannie Uyanik, one of Family Equality's dear friends and allies, as she shares this important message.
We have seen more clearly than ever in the past 6 months how family is indeed the most critical element in our lives. Whether chosen or given, those who surround us most intimately impact our hearts and our minds, and the right to that joy and chaos is one we all deserve. I grew up in a home with a very liberal mother and a wise but devout and conservative father. He was respectful to everyone, always, but behind closed doors, he explained that being gay was a choice and one that did not confer the rights of marriage or parenting. Fortunately, he also told us to use our brains and think. I experienced a deep paradigm shift right after college when one of my dearest friends came out to me before anyone else in our circle. I saw the pain and the agony and the fear in his eyes. I knew that this was not a choice. And I wanted him, in that moment, to have everything I knew that I would get to pick one day. Marriage, children, all of it. I feel the absurdity of how clear this has always been far more poignantly because I didn't always know it. It can be said that converts are zealous, but I just feel really lucky that I did not perpetuate the cycle of misinformation, that my children live in a world in which our chosen family includes 2 dads whose children are gifts on this earth. I have also learned that when one person is denied a right so essential to humanity, we all suffer. when a child is denied a home and love because of ignorance, that child, even if broken rather than cherished, still walks amongst us. When a family and couples are denied the right to seamlessly have children without obstacle, do we know who we prevented from coming into this world? Was that the child that could have cured cancer? When those in the LGBTQ+ community are prevented from legal and lived equality, we do damage to us all. I was once told by a senior member of the family equality team, for whom I have so much respect and who is far more capable than I will ever be, that because I was not LGBT or Q, my words on this subject mattered more to those who didn't understand it. I felt physically sick because I knew she was right. So I will use my words. I will use them for her, for my family, for my friends, for you, and for me, because we are all connected. We need to come together. We need to have one voice because we are one extended family, whether they like it or not. What happens to one person, what is denied to one person, affects another and another until it comes right back home. We need to explain this to them. Family equality and their work allows our voices to be heard. They are our megaphone. We need to keep it on. We need family equality's policy work, their compassion, their reach, their chisels, because everything they do makes a mark. But we also need our allies to speak up, to scream up, to stand up. A family is not something to be granted. A family is nothing short of a miracle. And I dare anyone to deny someone else's miracle. Thank you.
Wow, that was a powerful profession of allyship by Jeannie. Thank you for your advocacy. And to all of my dear sweet allies, it's time for you to lift up your voices to fight for our rights. Please make a gift right now. Text FUTURE to 52886 to give now. Now it's time for our award presentation. Few individuals have meant more to the success of family equality than John Murray and Harvey Reese. Their steadfast advocacy for our families and generous support of the organization have enabled family equality to grow and expand our work. We can't think of a more apt name for this upcoming award, the Murray Reese Family Award, which celebrates LGBTQ+ families and honors those who have made a significant impact in the fight for equality. Additionally, John and Harvey have generously donated $50,000 tonight to ensure that the work of family equality continues. Team, let's go ahead and add that to our thermometer. Now we need all of you to pitch in to help us hit our goal of $500,000. We can do this. Now, please welcome John and Harvey to present this year's Murray Reese Family Award.
Hello, everyone. I'm Harvey Reese, and this is my partner of almost 29 years, John Murray. We have the distinct honor of presenting the Murray Reese Family Award to the very special couple behind the Gill Foundation. Tim Gill and Scott Miller and the team at the Gill Foundation have led the way for 25 years funding organizations that are dramatically improving LGBTQ lives across America and the world. On a personal note, Tim and Scott have been one of the inspirations for our own giving.
Tonight, we are here to honor Tim and Scott for helping family equality support inclusive adoption policies at the state level, build successful coalitions to promote marriage equality, promote safe schools for our families, provide legal technical assistance to state partners, and convene a national LGBTQ family policy working group.
After we gained national marriage equality, most states had outdated policies and procedures for recognizing the legal relationship between spouses and their children. With the Gill Foundation's funding, Family Equality was able to do the work to win positive changes in several states.
And recently, Family Equality submitted an amicus brief in the case of Fulton versus the City of Philadelphia in an effort to eliminate discrimination in the child welfare system.
This June, Family Equality and the Gill Foundation jointly released Out in Texas, a powerful video docuseries chronicling the stories of two Texas families and the barriers and discrimination they faced forming their families. They and many other LGBTQ families have benefited by the philanthropy of the Gill Foundation.
How did we meet, honey? We met at a local bar. 2 weeks later. 2 weeks of friendship. 2 weeks of friendship, we started dating.
On our second date, I basically told him, you know, I really like you, but I'm just gonna be honest with you. I want to have kids, so if you don't want to have kids, that's fine. We can hang out, but it's not gonna go anywhere. So.
Yeah, and I thought about it for about 30 seconds and said, okay. I thought, hey, this is it. We're going forward now. This is never going to change. And now, every day you see stuff in the news, it just sends a chill down your spine. It's like, oh my gosh, this could really happen. They could really take all of this away from us. They could really try to say my family isn't legitimate.
We don't feel that marriage equality is safe. We do feel that it can be taken away.
It's traumatic.
And exhausting.
And exhausting, yes. I think that we have a calling. I think representation is everything. So the more that we see us on TV, the more that we see us around, I think the better it gets. But there's always going to be this safety concern. Yep. And so we have to be okay and comfortable in ourselves that we are putting ourselves at risk every day. Yep. If I choose to come out as a same-sex family, my life sometimes is at risk. I'm willing to do that. I have to.
What you just saw is just the beginning. We're excited to announce that Family Equality and the Gill Foundation are about to embark on a new public education campaign to further connect the importance of forming families to the fight for full LGBTQ equality.
The work of the Gill Foundation has impacted family equality in our families for years, and we know their support will impact LGBTQ families for years to come. On behalf of everyone at Family Equality, we are honored to present the Murray Reese Family Award to our friends, Tim Gill and Scott Miller. Thank you, and congratulations.
Thank you, John and Harvey, for your very kind words. It was a highlight of our summer to spend some socially distanced time with you. You both have been trailblazers in LGBTQ representation across mainstream media. And for me personally, as I mentioned to you, I think of Pedro Zamora, who brought much needed attention to HIV/AIDS and who exchanged vows with his partner in the first same-sex commitment ceremony to ever air on TV. That moment changed my life. You allowed me to see a world of opportunity and a future. Thanks to the two of you, LGBTQ people in our families were given a voice. Our lives were humanized, and through that shared humanity came public acceptance and progress. We are grateful too for your early and ongoing support of Family Equality, an organization that played a pivotal role in securing marriage equality for LGBTQ people. When Justice Anthony Kennedy penned his landmark decision granting that right to our community, he cited a family equality amicus brief, noting that marriage allows children, quote, to understand the integrity and closeness of their own family and its concord with other families in their community and in their daily lives. In the 5 years since the Obergefell decision, we have seen support soar for almost all LGBTQ rights. But we have also seen relentless and persistent attacks from the many well-funded opponents of equality and concerted efforts to erode the protections we deserve alongside every American. That's why the Gill Foundation was honored to partner with Family Equality this year to show Americans the incredible impact that marriage equality has had on families across the country. We shared the powerful stories of 2 Texas families and the ways in which the Supreme Court's historic ruling 5 years ago transformed their lives simply by recognizing their love and commitment to each other. Stacy and Sherilyn, Greg and Philip, who are with us tonight, thank you for sharing your stories and beautiful families with the world in this impactful series. Tim and I and everyone at the Gill Foundation are so proud to have been part of that journey. And thank you to Denise, the board, and the entire team of Family Equality for this extraordinary honor and the work that you do and will continue to do every day in the service of our community.
John and Harvey, thank you for your very nice introduction. Your willingness to publicly share your story of your own family has helped transform Americans' opinions. How humbling to receive this award in your name. I'm equally honored to receive this award alongside the man that I'm able to call my husband, thanks to Family Equality and the brave families it represents. It's something I never expected when I started the Gill Foundation more than 25 years ago. I'm proud to have supported the fight for marriage equality, but it's a right I know we cannot take for granted. Indeed, the day after this election, the Supreme Court will hear Fulton versus the City of Philadelphia, a case that would erode the rights of LGBTQ people to form families. We know there is no better organization than Family Equality to ensure the stakes in that case are made clear and to demonstrate the public imperative for all families to become fully equal under the law. For more than 40 years, Family Equality has been a leader in the fight to protect and defend our families, ushering in historic progress that has touched the lives of millions of parents and children. As Scott mentioned, your work at the courts has been critical to recognizing the love and commitment of LGBTQ people. We applaud your work to advance the Every Child Deserves a Family Act, which would prohibit discrimination against kids and potential parents in publicly funded child welfare agencies. What better testament to the importance of this legislation than having Representative John Lewis serve as its original sponsor. And with more than 200 co-sponsors in the House of Representatives, we hold out every hope that this law will pass next year when our Congress comes to its senses. Despite the dark times we're in, Scott and I believe full equality has never been closer to reality. We are committed to protecting the hard-fought victories we have already won, and we will not stop until every last LGBTQ American is treated equally under the law. Thank you again for this tremendous honor. Scott and I and everyone at the Gill Foundation are proud to stand beside you in the work ahead. Before we leave tonight, we are all mindful of the tremendous loss of our beloved friend Henry Van Ameringen last week. Henry was a real American hero who worked to make our lives better. Thank you, Henry, and thank you all.
Hi, I'm Jim Obergefell, the named plaintiff in Obergefell v. Hodges, the landmark civil rights case that brought marriage equality to the entire United States. My late husband John and I filed suit against the state of Ohio because we wanted our relationship, our marriage, to exist in the eyes of our government. I was one of more than 30 plaintiffs, couples, parents, even a 2-year-old boy named Cooper, who demanded the right to build families on an equal footing with opposite-sex couples. We wanted our families to share the same rights and responsibilities as every other family in our nation. That's why the work Family Equality does is so important. Regardless of the way we build our families, we deserve the right to do that, free from discrimination and impediments. In a perfect world, LGBTQ+ individuals and couples would be able to build families just as easily as anyone else. Until that happens, I'm glad Family Equality exists to do the work necessary to help make that a reality. We matter, our families matter, and every child deserves a loving family. Thank you, Family Equality, for helping our community build our families of choice and to ensure that they are respected and protected in our nation.
Why are you smiling? I know you can't really do that yet.
One of the reasons why I really like my family is because it's sort of like music. And then my family is the remix. I like being different.
I don't think we ever talked about getting married because it was never an option. It was just like, we're together and that's it. Eventually, it was like that wasn't enough. We were the favorite aunts.
But we wanted a family.
But we wanted a family. I never thought it was possible. And I didn't think that the world was gonna work with me.
The first agency that we met with said, we will not collude with you. Like we were doing something wrong.
9 years total and 6 years in the process, we were done. And we kind of looked at each other and said, we've been treated like criminals in this process. We've lost money. We've looked crazy with our baby room. And it sort of puts you in the state of emotional limbo where you're waiting to see what's gonna happen. You know, we've run into so many roadblocks, one barrier after another. And all we want to do is be parents. It doesn't have to come to that, and we don't have to be rid of children. We just need to talk to each other. And I put it out on the internet, and this whole process started to happen all over again, almost without us. And my phone rings out of the blue. But it was this adoption coordinator I had spoken with in Iowa, and she was like, "Hi, we have a mom in Texas. She wants a same gender couple," very specific about it. At the time, it was unheard of.
There was like 15 missed calls from Nancy. Either somebody has died, or that means that we've got a referral, and that just freaks me out. And she said, well, we kind of did, and I kind of accepted.
She's a rule follower. I'm not. So she was very well prepared for
Don't
the
be a
interview.
smart ass.
Yep, behave yourself. Don't say anything you shouldn't say. And at one point, I cracked a dumb joke and she kicked me under the table. They said, okay, we'll call you back in a few days. 10 minutes later, they called us back and they said, they want you. They thought that there'd be a lot of laughter in our house and that he would have fun.
Yep.
What we found out then was that Texas requires all sorts of paperwork and stuff within the last 3 to 6 months that Minnesota doesn't require. And we thought we had time to get it all. Sure enough, she had gone into labor early.
We had to move mountains that day.
We did. While we weren't there for him being born, we were on a plane the next morning because the hospital for sure didn't like gay people. They put the baby in the room with her. They shamed her. They tried to convince her to keep the baby. And we enter into the scene. So the family's super happy to meet us. They want us involved. They want us in the room. They invite us in.
One woman said, get out.
And charged at us across the room. You get out, you're not family. You aren't this child's family. You don't have any place here, get out. They ran us out of the hospital. And it felt like we were stealing him. It felt like we were trying to make a break for it. But then you can't leave the state. You have to get paperwork signed in both states.
We had to tiptoe around and keep the shades drawn. And I mean, it just felt
It's true, it felt like at any moment somebody was gonna come and take him. When I went back there to finalize, I went by myself. And I wasn't gonna bring the baby back to the state of Texas and risk anything. On a day when you should be celebrating in this dreary Texas courthouse, we get in there and it's like the best moment of my life where a judge says, this kid is yours forever. And I was alone.
Yeah. Hi.
All of that was worth it because this kid is who we were waiting for. There's no doubt that he's our boy.
Yeah.
He made us a family. It's organizations like Family Equality that equip people with the resources they need to pursue the life we get to live. You may not understand my family, but that's not my problem. It's yours, because my family's not going anywhere.
Family, it means people that you love and that you would have a very hard time living without.
I can tell that we are gonna be friends.
This is all about
You've just heard our story. And while it wasn't easy for us to find each other, we did.
And it's important that Family Equality's work continues so that we can enable other families to find each other, so that we can prevent discrimination in adoption and foster care, so that we can provide programming and connections between families like ours, so that Family Week can grow and reach people all over the country and across the sea. It's important for us to prioritize family equality, and we're asking you to do the same. We're asking you to make a financial gift tonight, whether it be a single gift of whatever you can afford, or a monthly sustainer gift. Become a part of our protector circle and be somebody that we can count on, because you need to count on family equality. We need to count on you. So please consider making a gift tonight. You've heard our stories. You've heard about the work that continues in spite of the pandemic, in the midst of the pandemic. Your contribution is everything to that work. Family equality is everything to us.
Yeah, family equality is everything to me. It's so important to me because we're a family.
And family equality means so much to me because I've met so many friends and so many families like mine. And the work just needs to continue.
Also, you love your mothers. So please, do what you can tonight. A gift in any amount would be so appreciated.
Thank you, Nancy, Laura, and Merrick. You're such a beautiful family. And thank you also to Jim Obergefell for your passion and support, and for helping to bring us marriage equality. And we're almost done, folks, but there's still time for you to text FUTURE to 52886 to give before the program ends. Thank you to tonight's executive producer, Bruce Cohen. Thank you to our producer, Catherine Jones, and her team at Collective Agency. But most importantly, thank you for joining us, and everyone who so generously donated tonight and in the weeks and months leading up to this event. We would never have been able to blow past tonight's goal of $500,000 without your generous support. You did that. It's been a hard year, folks. You all know that. Nonprofits like Family Equality have been hit hard, but we'll get through this, and we'll continue to be successful. And we promise that with your support, we will realize our dream of lived and legal equality for all LGBTQ+ families and those working to form them. And now, as we end the evening, it's my great pleasure to introduce Michael McElroy and Friends, singing their very special version of Defying Gravity by our dear friend Stephen Schwartz. And yes, we want to leave you all tonight with an inspiring reminder that nobody in all the land who says we can't do all we planned is ever gonna bring us down. Thank you, and good night, everybody.